Hi everyone and welcome to Ideas in the Game. So the idea of this series is that I show you my ideas for games I enjoy playing and I literally show you them. I will try my best to make them look like they are in the game, implemented and effective. Or I will show you why they might not be effective. Napalm mines. Example. Mines in War Commander. If you haven't guessed this is a War Commander video, you should have read the title. Mines are quite cool. Now, mines currently are rather cheap. Once you've got your factory upgraded and you've researched all the mines, they only cost 2,500 of each resource to rebuild, which is pretty cheap to be honest. So, why isn't there more types of mines? We have diversity in every other part of the game. We've now got like different types of rockets. We've got many different types of infantry, many types of vehicles, air units. Constantly being released with events. That's not even taking into consideration the fact that we have the workshop and we have, so many different types of turrets now. We have different types of bunkers. The game has gone in a really, really customization based direction. We all have our own base and we have it the way we like it. You may like being extremely efficient, so you may have researched the very best layout and made it, and that's what you like. So mines at the moment, they explode. They're not very interesting. They can be deadly. If you run over those really expensive, hellfires over them, you lose. At the moment, anyone that's got the Widowmaker will know that mines are your worst nightmare, seeing as that thing takes probably 11 odd hours to repair and probably like over 1 million of each resource, and that's probably just at level 1. But how about adding some diversity to your mines? Your enemy isn't going to want to trip your mine, but let alone do they want to trip the wrong mine. So at the moment we only have the choice to build shaped charges once we've upgraded. What if you're low on money and you want to build an IED? Why not? You can't at the moment. But a more interesting part of this discussion would be new types of mines. So I showed you the napalm mine there, and I think that would be a good addition. But you should be able to build those alongside shaped charges if you wanted to. You should also be able to build cryo mines. Now I say should, I'm not demanding these things, they're simply suggestions. I can't stand it when people go, you should have this in your game, and you're like, well, no. But anyway, these are what I think would be cool in the game. So, coming away from mines, but staying with mines, small auto turrets that jump out the ground and fire. I think from the mine factory you should be able to build those, and it would be really cool. They'd replace a mine, they'd be somewhat low damage, but they'd have a lot more range than a mine. So at the moment, an enemy has to touch a mine and then it's got a nice blast radius. But if you were to look at the blast radius for shaped charge, if we maybe triple or double that, and that tiny square was a very small machine gun turret, I think that'd be really cool. Now, I don't think these would be targeted. There wouldn't be an enemy, and what they'd simply do is exhaust ammo and explode. So after so many shots, it would explode. So they'd be majorly effective against groups of infantry. Maybe even, aircraft that are just flying in the wrong place. It's all prone to balance. And a great thing about balancing this is if you have decided to build a small machine gun under the ground that pops up and shoots, it can cost way more than a shaped charge. How about it costing 5 grand of each resource to replace? That would balance out any overpoweredness. You could have an anti-tank counterpart, so a small anti-tank cannon would come out the ground and start firing, and once it's run out of shells, that would explode, kind of going back to the fact it is a mine. So these are all just a few things that I think would be quite nice additions to the game and would just further that customization of your base, because personally I think pop-up turrets are the bomb, and I'd probably have all my mines as little pop-up turrets, because there's no reason not to if you've got them, surely. But anyway, so I'll move on now to the workshop. Now the workshop is phenomenal, but I'm really sad to say that the upgrades recently have been getting a bit samey. Now by this I mean tracks increase acceleration and movement speed no matter what size your tank is. Engines, now it makes sense, but they also just affect speed. The barrel on your tank, it affects the damage or the range. The shells affect the effect of the projectile. There's a lot more that can be done here. My first big idea that I'm really liking at the moment is on def. Now, we've kind of got the suicide bomber and the demo truck. So it was suicide truck. and they have their payload, and you can add, cryo on death, shock on death, which is kind of, that's their job. Their job is to go in there and die, explode. But how about units that have an on death? No one likes losing their units, so how about when you do finally and sadly lose a unit that you like in a battle, you get a little reward just to soften the blow. So example, an expensive unit like a max level mega tank, if that's to die, a raptor would enter the battle and do one strafe. Fire one set, and maybe it could be the same level as the mega tank. Maybe that needs a bit of a nerf, but that's fine. These are all just suggestions. How about riflemen and heavy gunners, maybe even in the infantry training slot, have a last stand. So upon the death of an infantry unit, it's then invincible for 2 seconds, gains a bit of a range boost, and can fire a few shots and then die. Just so when you do lose units, it's not as harsh. So stuff like aircraft, maybe aircraft on death, when they crash into the ground, add an explosive payload. Or so example for Hellstorms, just let them fire one more rocket when they die. They just fire a rocket, any target they like. Stuff like that. All units could have something like that. But obviously it would take up a slot in the workshop that would be taking away from range or damage. But at the same time, if you do lose it, if you're a bit clumsy with your units, you're going to want stuff like that. Or maybe if that's just your play style, you want to run in all those tanks and then have aircraft come and celebrate the fact that you've accidentally lost them all. Stuff like that. A unit I would like to talk about, because I've made a mock-up of it, is the Jackrabbit. It doesn't have a workshop yet, but I'm sure it will do, like all the other units eventually. But it's a unit that isn't used, and that's simply because he's a bit naff. It's a very small machine gun tank. The idea is really cool, but they're not that cool stat-wise, which is a shame. I mean, even Rhino tanks have a place in endgame now with their elite version and the workshop. And Paladins are slightly overtaking Challengers for the fact that they have workshop and Challengers don't. That all aside, I think something for the Jackrabbit would be really cool. I think early game units should be given quite powerful workshop upgrades. And maybe these can cost thorium to balance it out, or they can just cost a lot of money. Stuff like the Jackrabbit having more speed, having more health. A really interesting thing I'm thinking for maybe some smaller units in the game is halving the health of the unit, but when you deploy this one unit, it's 2 units. So in your war factory, your infantry and vehicle capacity is the same, but because of this upgrade, when this unit is deployed, it's 2. I think that would be really interesting for people, people that love to swarm their opponents. It would be perfect. You could even put that down to infantry. Have an infantry be a squad and have quite a few infantry. Obviously, you wouldn't want to deploy too many of those because I'm sure pardon me, sure your computer wouldn't deal with it. But it's just a rough idea. So I shall move on now to a little thing I'd kind of looked at, which is the last stand infantry. So they're fine, they work, they try and defend their base, they get killed by splash damage, so on and so forth. They add to the battle of a battle. The fact that you're destroying a base and then units are coming at you, it's a war game. We want battles. The exact reason I would like the last stand infantry to actually just be a bit less naff. I don't understand why last stand infantry are not the counterpart you've bought during the event. So if I lose a building, I don't get elite riflemen and elite heavy gunners come out, even though I've bought them. Which I think maybe should change, or maybe it shouldn't. But one thing that definitely should change is the fact that your last stand infantry all start on a designated point from the building. So when a airfield is destroyed, all the infantry appear roughly where the hangar is, and then they get one shot by a tank shell and they die. What should happen is the airfield's a really large building, and they should appear at any point within the area that the airfield takes up. The same with every other building. Instead of them all appearing on one space, they should all appear within. When you click on a building, you get that white square which represents how much space it takes up on the ground. They should appear randomly throughout that. That would just make a bit more sense. But obviously it's not a horrifically bad thing, and I can live with last stand infantry all breaking time and physics and starting on the same point, but that's fine. But my final thing I'd like to talk about would be special ops. Now, they're pretty cool. There's some really good ones when you get rare ones, especially defensive ones like having 2 condors strafe your base. bombing it with friendly bombs, which to be honest is pretty damn awesome, especially for events. But when it comes to offensive ones, adding some riflemen to my attack, or adding two mega tanks to my attack, isn't majorly awesome, and it could be. It could be way more awesome. So a suggestion I have for the special ops is, you know what, you can keep all the current ones, that's fine, but maybe get a few more special and interesting ones. I mean, how about special ops that give you a few units that otherwise we don't have access to? Maybe some units that are only for special ops. So some mercenary units, like, you know, something above elite. So mercenary rhinos, maybe they've got a secondary weapon, they fire shells and a machine gun, and they're a bit quicker. You know, mercenary riflemen, they throw grenades and shoot. Just a few things that would really mix up the special ops. Also stuff like prolonged battles, so an op that makes your base attack last more than 5 minutes. And that leads me to one thing that I really like the idea of, which is maybe an offensive special op that, as long as you're in battle, the base or the platoon you're looking at, it gets attacked by paratrooping riflemen. So slowly but surely, they're dropped onto the map via parachute. They can get shot by anti-air, and they're mercenary ones. So you don't control them. They drop from their parachute and then charge at the base. Maybe a few others, like when you're attacking a base, mercenary rhino tanks join randomly and attack the base. You know, these are powers that are purely for support. They aren't for you to control. You have this support power on, so you get support from mercenary forces or whoever. So you could even have this with aircraft, you know, as long as the battle's going, wing drones now and then, or, you know, it could even define a time. It would say every 45 seconds, 2 wing drones join the fight and attack the enemy with you. Stuff like that would be really cool, and it would just make battles a bit more interesting. I'd happily use those just for fun, just to have some wing drones flying around, and while I do my serious attack. Because, yeah, sure, they'll actually help once you've done the anti-air a bit, but at first it will just be for show. So a few more interesting powers like that. Tactical special ops. I haven't got many ideas for that. Maybe a tactical that does increases repair times. Maybe a tactical that, you know, during this time repairs are free. A few things like that. That instead of just gaining resources and Chinooks, maybe a few more things like that. So that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. I thought you liked the ideas. Feedback is welcome. I'll happily discuss any of the ideas. Obviously, everything I've said really is prone to balance and all the normal changes you'd expect when anyone's implementing a new feature. I'll probably go into a bit more detail in another video. I might even try and work out some facts and figures. But for now, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you want to see more. And I shall see you in for the next one. Goodbye.